Hello, everyone. I'm Vance Ballard with the National Sports Media Association. Joining me today is Mississippi State reporter for the On3 Network, Starkville Daily News, podcast host, and now first-time winner of the Mississippi Sportswriter of the Year award, Robbie Faulk. Robbie, thanks for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. We'll start off. Congratulations on your award. Very well deserved. First question is a pretty easy one. When did you know sports writing was the career path for you?
Oh, I knew I wanted to work in sports from a very young age, and it kind of started back in my hometown in Louisville, Mississippi. My dad is a Baptist preacher, and at the time at Winston Academy in Louisville, Mississippi, was that they had thrown around the idea of doing some broadcasts on Friday night, and that was something now that it's a common thing at most schools to have a broadcast, a stream, or something. But at the time, this was very new to high school sports, and a coach by the name of Mark Hudspeth, who ended up going on to become the Louisiana Lafayette head coach. Has been very successful as head coach. Now is at Gulf Shores in Alabama. He was an alum of Winston Academy, and I think he was one of the guys that wanted to kind of make the team a big deal in that way. And my dad had been on the side of sportscaster back in the day in the 1970s in high school sports. And so, long story short, being around that and being around my dad calling games on Friday nights, I wanted to become a sportscaster. I wanted to become, at Mississippi State terms, the next Jack Crystal, the next Jim Ellis. That's something that I really wanted to achieve in my career. So growing up, that's all I really wanted to do is be a sportscaster. And I get to Mississippi State, and I start talking to some people, and they talk about how I needed to get some experience or get to know people in sports. And I was introduced to the people in media relations at Mississippi State. I worked for 5 years as a student intern with media relations, and I began to really warm up to the idea of being in public relations, and that's what I got my degree in. So that was my plan, was to be in PR and to be a sports information director. I kind of moved away from my dreams of being a sportscaster, although I was doing that on the side. I was doing broadcasting with my dad at Winston Academy on Friday nights. I was doing some broadcasts for other local high schools on the radio. And so I was still doing that for fun, but that really wasn't the direction I was heading until my senior year in college. I was married. I needed to get a job, and an opportunity opened up at rivals.com for the Mississippi State website, covering the team there and being the publisher of the site and the staff writer. So I took that position, and I never really looked back from there. I just got involved in that, and I have not left sports writing since. I ended up going to 247 Sports with my coworker Paul Jones, who's with me at On3. I worked there for almost 10 years. In the middle of that, I joined the Starkville Daily News as the high school beat reporter there, and I've been with the Starkville Daily News now for over 10 years, and with On3 now for a year. So I've been covering Mississippi State sports or high school sports for if you go back to my days with Winston Academy since 2005, so almost 20 years now. And I've been a writer now, sports writer, for about 12 years. So that's basically the gist of it.
It's really cool. So it's more of a foundational, lifelong love and desire for sports, whether it be casting or writing or covering them, however they are. It's really interesting. You mentioned there, Robbie, your current position at On3, and you kind of touched on where you've come from before that. Tell me a little bit more about your career path and how you got to where you are now with On3 and what that journey looked like for you.
Yeah, so like I said, the rivals job, I was there in 2013. I got a chance to see the beginning of Dak Prescott's career and cover his freshman year at Mississippi State, and then his sophomore year, going into his sophomore year, and when he really kind of became started to, I guess, cement that legacy that he did in college sports. And after covering the team for that season, the financial situation just didn't work out with that website. And Paul Jones, really, I'd built a good relationship with him. He was at 247 by himself. He was running his own site. I was running my own site. And we kind of thrown around the idea of joining together and, I would do a lot of the team stuff. He would do a lot of the recruiting, and I would help him out. He would help me out, all that stuff. And we really felt like we would make a good team. He talked to the people at 247, and they brought me on. And we really had built a strong site there at 247 for, I think it was 3 or 4 years that we were there together. And then we actually merged with the scout.com site, and we had become the largest website in the Mississippi State fan base. So we really were we had a lot of good things going, and up until I think 2022, we had got a call from Shannon Terry, or actually not from Shannon, but someone that was close to Shannon had reached out to us about the opportunity to come back and work for Shannon Terry again, who at the time had gone from 247, starting that network, building it into a monster. He had started On Three, and was building that one up, and kind of collecting some talent from across the network that he had built relationships with. We were really interested in joining him again at On Three, and that's basically how that all transpired. We ended up coming over after our contracts ran out, and we're having a great time over there at On Three. He's been there for about 1.5 years now. I've been there for just over a year. I had to wait for my contract to expire before I could go join On Three. But we have a great community of Mississippi State fans that we love. They make our message board a special place, and the fan site community is one that a lot of people that are members of the NSMA and that have come from a more traditional background, maybe they might not be as used to that crowd. It's a little bit
Right.
different than what we get in traditional journalism, but it's very special interactions that we get to have with fans. And like I said, it's a lot different. You're interacting with the fan base, 24 hours a day, pretty much, as opposed to, you go to games as, I'm on the Starkville Daily News side. I go to games, I print we print the paper, and that's all you basically see of it outside of your social media use. This is like direct interaction all day, every day on a message board, and it's a very different thing. And I love the change in scenery that I get going from local high school sports, and I cover Mississippi State for the Starkville Daily News, but going from that to the message board side of things and interacting with the fan base, I really enjoy being able to bounce back and forth from that. Sometimes I need to escape the message board. Sometimes it's just too much, and I like going to that high school scene and being around a totally different atmosphere. So it's very interesting. I really enjoy it. I don't know if there's very many people like me, among these award winners that has that kind of shares time with high school and that fan site side of things. I'm a little bit of a weirdo in that sense, but I enjoy it. I really love my job. I love bouncing around to all the different things that I do, and that includes podcasting too.
Right. Getting you in the weeds, getting you intimate with the fan base, and it's more than just a talking head per se. You're someone that they can kind of connect with and feel like they've bounced things off of back and forth.
Yeah, and that's for our business, and we've talked a lot about this with Shannon Terry, who is as innovative and open minded as you can get for somebody in this business. And that's why he's been so successful, is he's always looking for the next thing and trying to stay ahead of the curve instead of following the leader. He wants to be the leader. And he helped form rivals.com. He started 247. He started On Three. Three of the what I would say the four major networks right now in our industry, and that's ESPN is in that group. Three of those, Shannon Terry was the leader, and he gets hot and then he gets out. But a lot of he's like he mentioned to us a couple weeks ago. This is something that he wants to sit and build, and a lot of people doubt that he's going to be at On Three long term. He feels like he can really build something special at On Three, and one of the main things that he is preaching right now about that is the importance of your community and being there for your fan base, being there to answer questions. Because at the end of the day, in our industry, we are, we're the bridge from the team to the fan base. We're the insiders. We're the people that's relaying that information, and it's important for us to be around. It's important for people to have that access to us because they don't have the access to the coaches and the players. So it's important for us to be there, answering questions, interacting with them. And I think that's why our group of message board posters have been so loyal to us. They follow us from site to site because we're there for them. We're there to have conversation with them, and we interact with them. We'll go back and forth. We'll banter, and I think that's really important for people in our side of things to be that voice and to be someone that those fans can interact with and have a connection with because of the access that we have.
Right, kind of build your own little community there. It's really cool to hear you guys get to do a lot of those things. Next thing here. So this is your first Sports Writer of the Year award, Robbie, as we mentioned before. Can you kind of put into words what it means to have your work noticed and appreciated by your peers in a way that they feel you deserve this award as well?
Just incredibly humbled, especially considering the people that vote on this, and that's people in our industry. So for people to look at my work and feel like it's worthy of that, it really is truly humbling because this is something that I feel lucky to be able to do on a day-to-day basis. And you're always hard on yourself. I very rarely read back anything that I write. When I write it and when I look through it and make changes, whatever I need to do, that's the last time I usually read my writing because it's almost like, I hate hearing myself talk. I hate listening back to how I talk and things I say. I think a lot of people are like that. And for somebody that likes to talk, that seems strange. For somebody that likes to write, it's kind of the same thing. But I cringe sometimes looking at my stuff or hearing how I talk. So for people to read my writing and to read my work and believe that I'm somebody that deserves to be in this position, it really means a lot to me. And it means more to me to be up against legendary people like Rick Cleveland and Parrish Alford, who have been in this business, longer than I've been alive, pretty much. And they've kind of scaled it back a little bit, and they're not actively on a beat, but they're still writing and putting out great content. And those are people that I grew up reading. Rick Cleveland especially is somebody that I was reading when I was, in elementary school. We would get the Clarion Ledger, and all the way through high school, I'm in study hall, and every day I'm reading the Clarion Ledger, and I'm seeing Rick Cleveland's work. And he is, a guy that I would consider a hero of mine. And over the last 10 years, I've been able to get to know him and build a relationship with him. And it's really cool to be in that position. He congratulated me on the award. He's a guy that I think's won it like 12 times. And so that was very humbling for me to even be in the conversation with them. And two, I know I got the Starkville Daily tag by my name, and that holds a lot of weight with people in our community, but also to have the fan side of things. I know there hasn't been a lot of people in that world that have won this award. And that to me is, it means a lot to me too, to kind of carry that over. It's not looked at as less than, I guess I would say. So
Right.
it means a lot to me. And it means a lot to represent the state of Mississippi because this place is so special to me. A lot of people look at Mississippi as, in some cases, a third world country, and that's just not the case. We have our faults for sure. We've had a troubled past. We certainly have a lot of catching up to do in a lot of categories, but there's so many special things that have come from this state. I look at the people, the writers that have come from here, William Faulkner and Willie Morris, and so many, Eudora Welty, and the artists that have come from here, the great football players and basketball players and baseball players that are from the state of Mississippi, the inventions, the ingenuity. Mississippi is quite misunderstood, and in reality, it's a group of people that have taken circumstances that haven't been, you know, great, and they've made themselves legendary. And I look at people that come through here and say, "I got to get out of here," as people that are holding the state back. I think more people should, be proud of where they're from and stay where they're planted and bloom here. That's always been my mindset. I've always wanted to do great things here. I've always wanted to write about people here and promote the people and the towns and the communities and the schools and the teams. I've wanted to promote them. I built a house here. I plan on staying here the rest of my life, and this is where I'm going to be. So while I'm here, I would like to do big things and write great stories and promote people here. So that it really means a lot to me to represent the state of Mississippi and represent the people here for sure.
And it's really cool to not only hear the connections and relationships you're able to build with the fan base and the people around you, but the community as a whole within the state of Mississippi. It's really cool to hear what all that means to you and how special that is. Now, speaking of special, let's go on a trip here, Robbie. It's Friday night in April, 8 p.m. at Polk Dimmitt Stadium. Ole Miss is in town, and the Aces are on the mound. For those of us who haven't been there or might be unfamiliar with its reputation, describe that environment for me.
It's hard to describe. It really is. It's almost a football game, tailgate, brought into a baseball, environment. It's really insane. Mississippi State was kind of at the forefront of taking college baseball into the mainstream back in the 1980s. Ron Polk his name is still, on the stadium there. It's Dudy Noble Field, Polk DeMont Stadium. And Ron Polk is why Mississippi State baseball is what it is at this point. He came in the late 1970s, and he wanted to kind of take baseball into a different direction. It was always America's pastime, but college baseball has never been super popular across the country. But Ron Polk, he started to incorporate, marketing and trying to get as many fans to the stadium as possible, and it really helped in recruiting. He was at the forefront of it, along with Skip Bertman at LSU, and Ron Polk took Mississippi State to new heights and really elevated college baseball as a whole. He was always fighting the NCAA for college baseball and making it more mainstream, and adding more opportunities for players. He really fought that 11.7 scholarship, what I would call a disadvantage for baseball, where you have to spread your funds across your entire roster, and it's limited to 11.7, and that's something that seems to finally be coming to an end. And I give Ron Polk a lot of credit for that. He still roams the hallways at Mississippi State. You can't get rid of him. He's going to be at every baseball game, and he lives and breathes it. But long story short, he brought Mississippi State and college baseball in the mainstream back in 1985. I would say it was really kind of the benchmark year, with Mississippi State having Will Clark, Rafael Palmeiro, Jeff Brantley, guys like that, they ended up becoming, MLB superstars.
Right.
They really made college baseball cool. And going back to that time period, Mississippi State had created the fans a tailgating atmosphere in the outfield that really was not present. People came to the games, they would get hot dogs and popcorn and sit in the stands. Mississippi State fans, specifically, students back then, they started backing up their trucks and their cars to the edge of the outfield wall.
Mm-hmm.
And they would bring their grills out there, maybe some beverages of choice, and they would line the outfield walls. They called that the left field lounge. And it really grew into a phenomenon that I can't really explain until you see it. And that the former stadium that was built in the 1980s was a really special place for a lot of people. But John Cohen and former athletic director Scott Strickland, John Cohen was a former player in the 1990s, in the late 1980s. He wanted to make it bigger than life. And they created this stadium, Dudy Noble Field 2.0, I would call it, that is really, it rivals most minor league stadiums. I wouldn't put it in the MLB stadium list by any means, but it's better than a lot of minor league stadiums. And it's a 360 concourse. You can walk around. And in the outfield, you still have that left field lounge atmosphere, but it's been modernized. And you basically have two levels in the outfield where people have these rigs, so to speak. It's not as dangerous as it used to be when you're stacking old cars and bleachers and stuff on top of each other and people are sitting on them and you have rusty screws rattling. It's not as dangerous as that, but you have these little blocks that, 15 people or so are getting in across the outfield wall, and two levels of it where, you got grills and you got a fun atmosphere, and it really is, unlike anything else. And they also built these lofts in the outfield, apartments, basically, where people can come stay over the weekend. And you have a balcony that you can stand out on. You have a rooftop up there. A lot of people have tried to adopt, what Mississippi State's done in the outfield, but it's truly one of a kind. There's never been anything really like it, and it started kind of organically at Mississippi State. But it is on an SEC weekend, you're going to have 14,000 people in there. This fan base absolutely loves baseball, and so it's been really cool over the years to kind of see it grow, and now it's at an all-time high as far as popularity after Mississippi State finally broke through and won a national championship in 2021.
Yeah. Well, as an East Carolina alum and frequent visitor of the jungle out in their left field, I got goosebumps just thinking about getting out there and experiencing that environment. It's beyond cool that you guys get to do something like that and bring the fans that kind of experience every game. And Robbie, this has been fantastic. But as we begin to wrap things up here, is there any specific advice maybe that you've been given along the way or something you've learned that you might give to students or young professionals like myself looking to make their start in sports media?
Yeah, what I always tell people is, when I was coming up, I never turned down an opportunity. If an opportunity presented itself, I took it. And, whether that's, freelance or whatever, I took that opportunity. If you can do it within your time frame or whatever, if it's logical for you to do it. And nothing is too big or small for me, because you never really know who you're going to come across that could impact your life in a positive way. And I've always tried to be somebody that's, like I'm going to take every opportunity I can get. And that's really what has helped me get to the position I'm in now. Is I've taken opportunities with the Associated Press, and I've taken opportunities at some bigger outlets. I've written things for ESPN and CBS and places like that. I write for two small town newspapers that are weekly newspapers. I do that every single week. My hands are full, but I would not have it any other way. I enjoy having a full plate. I'm constantly thinking about what's next, I don't like to have nothing to do. So I've always I take just about every interview I get. I take any opportunity to write, whatever. I would say just keep yes in your vocabulary and try to eliminate no. That's the biggest thing I can say is I really believe that you're going to get these opportunities. You need to jump on it because you never truly know what that opportunity could do for you and what doors it could open for you across the timeline of your career.
All right. Well, there you have it, Robbie. I want to thank you again for taking the time to join me today. Say congratulations again on your very well-deserved award. Best of luck to you in your career as you go forward. Try not to spend too much time in that left field lounge this summer, but enjoy it and go Bulldogs.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Robbie.